This podcast is brought to you by our friends at Minimal Cases. We've talked about Minimal before. These cases are so thin, you'll forget that they're there, but the protection they provide is very, very real. And right now, until the end of the month, Minimal is offering our listeners 35% off of your order, maybe for that new iPhone 11 you just picked up, by using the promo code DIGITDAILY or by clicking the link in the show notes. That's mnmlcase.com and use the promo code DGITDAILY with no space to get 35% off your order, and we thank them for sponsoring this podcast. Good morning, Digit fam. Adam Dowd here, and fun fact, I have the Windows Your Phone app and Android Messages set up in a browser, so every text I get sends me 3 notifications, and you know what? It's not as annoying as I would have predicted. Go figure. How's your day going? It is September 18th, 2019, and this is your Digit Daily. Now that the iPhone 11 is shipping, the reviews are starting to roll in, and I'm sorry to say, the iPhone 11 completely sucks. I'm kidding! All reports, well, most reports, but we'll get to that in a second, say that the iPhone 11 is a home run and the iPhone 11 Pro Max is a grand salami. So let's run them down. Nilay Patel at The Verge says, most people don't need to overthink it, just get an iPhone 11. And he said that compared to the iPhone 11 Pro, that is. Lauren Good from Wired says the device is great, but seriously, Apple? LCD in 2019? Not cool, bro. Chris Velasco from Engadget says there are advantages for splurging on the Pros, but after getting a feel for what the iPhone 11 is capable of, those benefits don't always justify spending an extra $300. Truth. Tech Radar's Gareth Beavis says that the iPhone 11, unlike the iPhone XR, no longer feels like a secondary device, and Gareth, that's called branding. Now, as for the iPhone's Pro, Chris Velasco says that although the cameras are great, quote, the differences in actual day-to-day use can be so subtle that you'd be hard-pressed to really notice them. Nilay Patel says that the iPhone Night Mode rivals and even surpasses Google Pixel devices. Whoa. And Scott Stein at CNET says that the Pro device is only for those who want to use their phone as a professional camera, and I think professional photographers might have something to say about that. And now we come to the New York Times, Brian Chen. And Brian, I'm sorry, but I'm about to dish. See, one of the benefits of a 7-minute podcast is I get to harp on certain topics, and Brian Chen's iPhone Pro, okay, we'll call it a review, is quite harpable, and I'm going to read this verbatim so there is no misunderstanding here. Quote, so here's what I ultimately suggest. You should definitely upgrade if your current device is at least 5 years old. The iPhone 11 models are all a significant step up from those introduced in 2014. But for everyone else with smartphones from 2015 or later, there is no rush to buy. Instead, there is more mileage and value to be had out of the excellent smartphone you already own. Now, to be clear, a smartphone reviewer, someone whose job it is to evaluate smartphones, said, if you have an iPhone 6S, you're fine. Brian, I have an iPhone 6S. I'm not fine. Seriously, dude, just because this is an iPhone review doesn't mean you get to iPhone it in. The last 5 years, 5 years in the smartphone space. You just said the technological equivalent of, well, if you have a horse and buggy, you might consider picking up a Tesla. But let's be honest, are you sure your horse is actually dead? Maybe he's just sleepy. Dude, this paragraph came in the first 500 words of your review and you completely lost all your credibility. I mean, I don't know if that speaks highly of phones from 2014 or how crappy the iPhone 11 is. I don't even have the words to explain how incredibly insane that whole paragraph is. And just for reference, in 2014, BlackBerry and Windows phones still existed. Good God, man. Now, to be fair, Brian Chen did follow up this morning with a tweet that says, feels like some in the Twitterverse are mischaracterizing my recommendation, which, to be fair, is pretty nuanced. I only recommended against upgrading from the iPhone X. For 6S and 7 owners, said it was a nice to have, but not a must-have. 11 is a must-have for anything older. Nuanced?
You keep using the word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
I mean, you're trying to walk it back, so that's good, but next time, I don't know, maybe give it another pass before hitting the old publish button? So for now, go to your corner and think about what you've done while we head into the Roundup! Seriously, 5 years? Sorry. Android Authority has published its camera review on the Note 10 Plus, and the verdict is, well, as long as your Note 7 hasn't set a plane on fire, just stick with that. No, that's not what the camera review said, because this is an actual review, Brian. Anyway, overall, the Note 10 cameras are solid, but fall short in one key area, low light performance. Maybe it's just me, but I set a fairly low bar when it comes to that already, so a camera has to be absolutely terrible to disappoint me, but I can kind of see where Eric Zeman from Android Authority is coming from with his concerns. Seems like everyone wants to get in on the content production these days, but at least Tinder is taking a very Tinder-like approach, a choose-your-own-adventure style video series. The subject of the video series is, who would you want to spend your last night with in the face of an oncoming apocalypse? Sadly, Nicole Kidman is not an option. But naturally with this series, you swipe either left or right to make your decisions, even though up and down is really more intuitive, and if you understood that reference, you have great taste in television, my friend. This video series will upload directly to the Tinder app, and I'd love to check it out, but then I'd have to install the Tinder app, and I really don't feel like answering those questions to my wife. Researchers at Michigan State University have developed a fully transparent solar panel. There's lots of science involved here, which is why I didn't invent them myself, but suffice it to say, it's a very impressive feat. Currently, the transparent cells have about a 5% efficiency as compared to 7% on other mostly transparent cells, but overall, this could be a pretty huge step forward in making, well, almost anything more energy efficient. We expect oil and coal company protests by the end of the week. You may have heard of the Apple tax. Well, the Apple tax isn't really a thing anymore. Apple products aren't much more expensive than other products. But the Apple tax is still a thing in one place, the EU. Namely, the European Union wants to take a bite out of Apple to the tune of $14 billion with a B dollars in back taxes, and geez, I thought the IRS was tough. At issue here is Apple's headquarters in Ireland, which Apple uses for tax advantages. Like in the US, we're like, give us money, and Apple's like, hey man, ask the Irish. And then we go to Ireland and say, okay, give us some money. And the Irish are like, oi laddie, ask the fine folks in Cupertino. And then another Irishman is like, we don't f***ing sound like that. And the first guy is like, I know, just what the hell? Anyway, the European Union wants Apple to pay somebody in taxes, and Ireland's like, nah, we don't even care. And I just don't understand tax law at all. Or Irish accents, for that matter. Another day, another reboot. The man behind Mr. Robot is rebooting Battlestar Galactica, which itself was a reboot of the 1970s show Battlestar Galactica. So are we surprised that the show with the tagline, all this has happened before and all of this will happen again, is happening again? Well, probably not. I think we're all just hoping for a few thousand more years before it happened again. But Peacock, which is the name of NBC's upcoming streaming service, by the way, needs a shiny new show, so bring on the Cylons. So say we all. And finally, Pocketcasts, one of the most popular podcasting apps out there, is now free, and if I'm totally honest, I'd forgotten it wasn't free before. I must have bought it at some point, but whatever, now it's free, and it will be funded based on a subscription service it's calling Pocketcasts Plus for $1.14 per month or $11.49 for a year. Folks who purchase access to the web app, like me, will get the first 3 years of the subscription service for free, which is nice. And ironically, this news comes in as I'm contemplating switching to a different podcast app, mainly because Pocket Cast doesn't sync progress between apps on different devices, which is a little annoying. But if you're in the market for a new podcast app, give it a look. This podcast not sponsored by Pocket Cast, but it is sponsored by Minimal Case. Don't forget to grab that extra 35% off your order, promo code DigitDaily, link in the show notes. So that's going to do it for today's Digit Daily. If you'd like to learn more about any of these stories, check out the links in the show notes and subscribe to our daily newsletter on Digit.com. And if you like what you heard, subscribe, leave a review, and don't forget to tell your friends about DigitDailyPod.com. Once again, I'm Adam Dowd, Dead Technology on Twitter, and we'll talk again tomorrow.